Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, where the mind and gym come together to help you live your best life. Hosted by two fitness professionals and your personal trainers, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie.
Hello, everybody. We're back again. Matt Gluckman here with my co-host, Eric Menchie. Think Fitness Life team, where we talk about mindset, exercise, and nutrition, tie it all together, so you can live your best life. This week, we're going to be talking about The Social Dilemma. It was a Netflix special that came out in 2020, and there's a good message that it sends, and we want people to be aware of. So we're going to tie it back to fitness for you. Before we get into it, we have our weekly workout, and we'll save our food for thought till the end. Weekly workout. Ready for this, Menchie?
Ooh, hit it. Let's see what you got.
Bent over barbell row, barbell incline press. Obviously, you got to spend a good 10-15 minutes warming up and getting your body prepped, so it's going to receive the tension you're about to put on it so you can grow, right, in the way that you want, whether it's strength or looking better or conditioning or whatever your goal is. So barbell bent over row, barbell incline press. And what you do is you work at a moderate to heavy weight that you could probably only perform 7 or 8 reps of. You're going to superset the two, and you're going to do a 5 reps, then 3 reps, then 2 reps, and that's one set. So for example, you go barbell bent over row, 5 reps, then incline press, 5 reps, then you go back to the row, 3 reps, back to the press, 3 reps, back to the row again for 2, and back to the press again for 2. That's 1 round. You do 3 rounds of that, and you try to add 5-10 pounds through the whole series. So add 5 pounds per set. And then on the last set, you want to go a AMRAP. So you go with the barbell bent over row, you do as many as you can, strip the weight down, anything you added additionally, or just dropping to the next tier. Go again, as many as you can do, then strip it again and do as many as you can do. The idea is that if you go to failure on that first set, it's going to be a fight to even get 10 reps out of the next 2 sets. So you do a strip set on the incline press, and then you can end with a isometric hold of a pull-up for 30 seconds and a isometric hold of the bottom of a push-up for 30 seconds, and then you're done.
Just hitting some upper body that day, huh?
Little push-pull action. I was inspired after some front squats earlier in the week, and it was a little sore still.
Upper body strength where you're hitting some serious volume to go into the hypertrophy range. I like the 5-3-2 in one set because that's you're getting 10 reps, but you're breaking it down so you use higher intensity of weights.
It's been one of my favorite go-tos because you still get to lift heavy. You're not working on peak strength, which sometimes I'm not even ready to do based upon sleep or diet or scheduling other clients. And like you said, you still get the hypertrophy in.
Yeah. I found that breaking up like that, like it's 5-3-2 or 2-3-5 to get 10 total reps in a set is very beneficial because you can use that higher intensity, which demands more adaptation and growth. Rather than be like, if you want to do, 3 by 10, you're going to hit fatigue at some point and the weight's going to be a little bit lighter.
Yeah, and I like it. I like it because it's almost like a little bit of a pre-exhaustion, because when you do the superset and you go back to like even the 2 reps round after just doing a 5 rep round and 3 rep round, you can feel everything working and fatiguing and failing. It's just great.
And did you say how much rest in between the sets?
I try to do all like one set as I go, and then I rest.
Once you're done with everything. Like 2.5 minutes off, and then we're back on?
I'd say a minute to 2 minutes is good.
Yeah, that's what I would feel.
I wouldn't rest too much because you're still doing hypertrophy essentially.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good one. I had a good workout with that. I shared it with a few other people.
We'll put it on the list to do.
Oh, it's up there. It's already there. Um, before we get going into the social dilemma, though, Eric, hit our audience with a little synopsis of the social dilemma for those who have not heard of it or didn't watch it yet.
Yeah, so this is like almost brand new on Netflix. One of my friends told me about it, and I haven't really been on Netflix a lot lately, and I jumped into this. So it's literally about how social media and these developments of these apps are actually changing how we behave and how we alter towards devices, products, pages, people, activities, which we're kind of staying in this pattern of phones. And it goes over everything of how a kid or a person is kind of encapsulated and how the system behind these big tech and apps actually work to change how we view and how we go about using these technologies. Very, very well done. I highly recommend people go to see or watch it if you have Netflix, or find someone who has Netflix and borrow it and watch it, especially after possibly listening to this. We're going to give a little different perspective of kind of what we think. And this is why we wanted to do this, because, it had a lot of good information, but I don't think it had a real solution. It was just kind of like, this is the information. And I think it left people to now think, okay, well, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
I mean, very informative, made aware of a lot of things, even that some things that I didn't even realize or know occur.
Yeah, because I think some people actually just deleted their social media right after that, but I don't necessarily think that's the solution either.
That was kind of like the end push. I think at the end, that's like the big push to like delete it. But I agree with you. I don't know if that's the answer. I don't think it's the answer. I think there's a lot more to it, and I think we're gonna break that down and get to the answer that people need to learn how to deal with this, because it's not going away.
We're gonna pick it apart. That's kind of our goal, is to pick it apart and look at it from all different angles and give you our takeaway on the messaging.
Yeah.
But just to kind of continue on what you were saying, it was interesting how they put things in perspective for the audience in terms of explaining. And it's all these tech CEOs and people who have worked in the industry, and they're explaining what the product is that they're measuring and how they go about doing it. So basically, we're the product, and our imperceivable minor changes in our behavior and perception is the product. So that's what they're selling to advertisers, and they're trying to figure out how to maximize the potential for that. Again, subtle changes in our behavior and perspective that we do not detect. That's the goal that they're looking for. And they talk about how this system that they create to improve on finding that is artificial intelligence, and how it self-perpetuates itself and gets stronger and smarter, and will essentially win with odds over us, essentially. So you just got to be smart. But without diving in too much, Menchie had a really good article that explains some of the subtleties that can manifest themselves in training as well.
Yeah, so this literally came out the other day, and I felt that it kind of went
how ironic,
hand in hand, right? Hand in hand. Scientists find neurochemicals have unexpectedly profound roles in the human brain, and it goes over saying, first of their kind observation with dopamine and serotonin. So basically, our short-term gratification and our long-term like happiness neurotransmitters, those neuro drugs that we love, are at work at sub-second speeds to shape how we perceive people, perceive the world around us, and how we take actions to those perceptions. So within instances of seeing something, it's like quicker than that, people are figuring out how they want to react to something based on these neurochemicals talking back and forth, these frequencies of neurochemicals firing. at speeds that we probably can't even fathom. But they're now having the research and the ability to have technology to figure that out. And it's pretty awesome. So it's going to kind of give us a much broader look at the role these play in supporting human behavior and thought and how they're involved in the process of the outside world. In this case, this outside world, the social dilemma, we're talking about phones, screen time, Instagram, Facebooks, TikToks, all these platforms where it's just like, I mean, what was it in the social dilemma? Like the average look of a post is less than 3 seconds or
I think
something.
it was about 3 seconds. Yeah.
So think about that. Like in 3 seconds, our brain is deciding
already
whether we like this, keep looking at it, or scroll past. Like that's how fast we're training our brains to look at this feed. And we're only looking at this in the past maybe 10 years. Before that, our brains have never really seen something that moves this fast and this much information and this much input. So yeah, our brains are going to change real quick. And we're adapting to these new levels of I'm going to say it's more dopamine. And I think we'll get into that in a bit, like the dopamine serotonin, but like we're feeding off of this dopamine pathway of like short-term gratification. Do I like this post? Is it someone I like? Do I want to linger and watch it? Or do I want to buy this product?
And then we're semi-forced into doing that so rapidly and probably over 10 different images in less than 5 minutes. So like back to your point, we weren't designed to not only be accurate at those knee-jerk, thin slicing interpretations, but then repeatedly intake all that constant information, and the exponential growth to our computing and just the amount of information that comes through our headspace on a daily basis is light years ahead of anything else that has progressed in the past 1,000 years. And they show this on a graph, and it's pretty daunting. I think one of the major things that stands out to me from The Social Dilemma, the movie, for anyone who watched it, is it felt like an hour and a half of my time wasted for the message to realize that you got to think for yourself. You can't trust what's out there. You can't trust that, oh, this feels really good. This looks really great. Or look at the cover. It says it's really good for me. Or it's just not the way it works. And it doesn't have to be such a bad thing. It's just how the way the world works, the way the cookie crumbles. I mean, companies are trying to profit. They're trying to feed their families, and they're trying to do it in a reasonable way. And we have plenty of regulations protecting someone's privacies, but we just never really talked about digital privacies.
Right. Well, the thing they play off of, and it's very, very smart of them. Like it's genius. They're playing off of the brain, which is very like it's plastic, so it's malleable. You can change it, you can influence it. That that playing and knowing that knowledge is powerful for these companies. It's I mean, we've talked about, and we're going to talk about mindset, but it's like, how do we change mindsets and behaviors? They're basically doing that, but they're doing it with content that they know is going to get you to stay.
Right, and they're doing it based upon calculated data points from previous times of not getting you to stay and previous times that they did get you to stay. So they're learning. And the way that the system is built is it's not a bunch of people who are trying to figure this out in real time, so you have time to think and catch up. It's machines. It's sophisticated systems that are going to outwork you. And if you're not careful, you're going to end up, I know so many people can be honest and say that they've made purchases in the past 6 months that they look back on and wondered what they were thinking. But we're all forced to buy online right now. We're all forced to be in front of screens right now. I think it's important to have boundaries around them, especially for your kids in the younger developing world. And one of the most fascinating comments came out of a gentleman who's known as the father of father of virtual reality, and he was talking about how there's a whole generation who are succumb to feel and believe that all communication that they are having is based off of the foundation of trickery and pulling the wool over your eyes.
Yeah.
And to the core, that has really been kind of the American philosophy of business. And I'm not saying all business. I'm much more for the morally and ethically sounded businesses, but not all businesses like that. It's just, if you look back at a lot of industries and a lot of beginning emerging companies that made it really well in the industries, they did profit off of the fact that they knew something that their competitors didn't, or they knew something or were able to perform something that the general public didn't. And I think that's something that I want to pat our backs for, and showcase and just do a little bit of 30-second advertisement for us, right? But I think that's really what we're about, and more to the point, it's what people should look for. If you I feel like people need to be more territorial about what they spend their time doing and what they spend their money doing. And too often do we get kind of this gravitational pull to spend in bad places or waste our time in certain areas that we didn't really want to. But it's like the line, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
And I didn't stand for anything dietarily 5 years ago. I didn't give a shit. I ate based upon my dollar. I was more likely to spend at the Wendy's dollar menu, buying an original chicken sandwich because of the healthiest thing on the menu, but it was the cheapest and healthiest thing I could get at the time, and buying a big thing of oats and eggs than I was, say, buying a good quality wholesome meal that's going to feed my body. Now, granted, it wasn't until ulcerative colitis that I got more in tune with everything, but now it's like a fight when I go to the grocery store. It's like, fuck that. I don't want to waste my money with this crap. And on the cover, it'll be like gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free. And then you'll read the back and it's got like cornstarch in it. Guess what? That fits all those front labels. So I just think if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And you have to stand for your health and your well-being and what you want to expose your life to and what you want to expose your family to. And not, again, social media. I'm not trying to vilify social media, and I think that I need to state that.
No, I think it didn't start off where it is now. I think it started off different. I mean, you and I are very much in the age where we were probably in college when Instagram first came out. And it was just pictures. There's no videos. There was really no comments. You remember, it was just like a picture. That was it. And now we've kind of lived through, I mean, what, Facebook came out when we were in kind of high school or around that time. And so now it
was only for colleges. It was only for college. Yeah.
And now it's everything, right? Videos, live stream, marketing. And I think that's really where it kind of like takes an interesting turn, is because now products start to buy people's interest. Like, okay, we want to promote this, we want to get that. That's the tough thing with this now. And because the brain works fast. We'll put it this way. One of my favorite kind of studies I tell people is like the attraction of a brain. The brain will take 9 seconds to figure out if you're attracted to someone or not. Like, that's, real quick. So knowing that, say, you can look at a picture within that 9-second frame, people know that someone's going to figure out if they like this or not. That's all they need for pictures or posts or whatever. So if they can make this person stay with certain likes longer, that 9 seconds per picture now becomes 20, 30, 40 minutes. And I've heard some horrid times of people. I spent 2 hours on TikTok yesterday. I spent, 5 hours on Instagram like this day. It's just like, you go to value of the dollar, the value of time is way more important than that. Like you're
Because you
never
can't
getting
get time
that back.
back.
So
Exactly.
what you're saying, people need to prioritize and start to realize, as they see this or they're listening to this, that yes, it's a giant vortex that's spinning and it wants to keep you spinning in there. It's going to send you push notifications. It's going to send you everything it can to draw you to pick that phone up to say, hey, we're here. And then, let's throw out a product or something.
And that's what's so gross about it, is that they're trying to do it without people's awareness, because they know that if people were aware of it, they would do something about it. So that's all we want to do is raise awareness with this episode, is just talk about the shortcomings of social media. And again, I think back to the foundation that it kind of reminds me of is thinking for yourself. My point on that is, it's been stated that we are we are geniuses in technology with moral and ethics of a baby, of a toddler. And it's pretty true. I mean, we have nukes, but we don't know how to treat our neighbor, and we don't know how to self-regulate our own emotional intelligence, right? Or even self-identify our own emotional state. And you can blame whatever you want, bad parenting, bad situations, whatever you want to say is the cause. Yeah, right, the environment. But the bottom line is, the only way you overcome it is when you take responsibility and know that you have a choice. You have a choice whether or not you want to. I don't want to use the phone as an example, but you have a choice if you want to set up a plan for your week to exercise somewhere in there. You have a choice when you go to the grocery store. So I think it's just really important, because you start to even realize that more things on the canvas are changeable, and you really have a choice in your attitude and perspective about things. And most of the time, this is the Mark Twain quote. He goes, "Oh, how life is full of such atrocity, most of them which have never happened." And it's just such a good quote, because a lot of people's issues aren't the actual events. It's the way that it triggers a response internally and the way they feel about the event that is the actual problem. So,
and
back
if
to
you lose choices, right? If you forfeit choices because you think you and feel you're entrapped by this, you now have no control of human behavior. Your behavior now controls you, and you're going to just repeat and repeat and repeat, and you're not going to be able to escape it. You can't escape your own self. If you let your freedoms of choices go, it's just a bad loop, and continuously looping. And as we've seen from the documentary, yes, for like products and stuff, but psychologically, it starts to mess with people, because we're now looking at this dopamine pathway of this short term, like enjoying something, right? And when people don't get it as much as they think they need to,
it makes an addiction.
Yes, this new low becomes like I'm looking for this. I'm looking for more likes on my video. I'm looking for more attention, which I think social media is good and bad. The bad side, I think a lot of people look for a lot of attention on it, and they're just throwing content out to see what's going to happen, which, okay. But then you start creating, like you said, this addiction loop of you're expecting this every time. And when it doesn't happen, as we saw in the documentary, people get a new, I wouldn't say like slight depression, a little low. They get bummed out, like, oh, this isn't happening right. And it kind of keeps feeding. Or like our phone call yesterday, you told me a story about, what was it, a picture in a model and how it was kind of altered. Yeah. So we get this new perception of what we think reality actually is, and it's not. We think people are viewing, not we, certain people are viewing life through a platform, but it's not reality. They're only getting a glimpse of maybe 10 seconds of that person's day, or a photo of 1 second of that person's life, and they're comparing themselves to it, which is we all do. I'm sure we've done it through time. You see someone in, well, let's take my world. You see someone in here benching 275 for reps. You're like, oh man, that's awesome. I got to get there one day, right?
Stop talking about yourself.
Well, you do things in this world that it happens, but I think we're gravitating more towards this now, and we have this over attention syndrome to this, and that's the problem.
There's a couple things I want to pick apart there. One being that it does happen. It's done in such a way that people really aren't aware of it, and that's okay. But I think the important thing to recognize is that fact. So you might go to Instagram, use that as a great example, and know that you're always focused on the way you look and the way other people look, and you're gonna go into it knowing that you're gonna healthily try to scroll through for anything that's interesting. But if you get stuck on someone who looks so good and you just can't stop, you'll be aware of it. When you be aware of it, you start to disconnect from it controlling you and it taking over your whole life, and you start to remember that you just remember your nature and your true nature that you were kind of born with and who you are. And I think a lot of people, what they try to do is like force this thing open and just be perfect. And if it's not perfect, then they can't deal with it. And that's not the case. You got to have a filter of being able to balance and being able to siphon through this stuff and not like cold turkey be like, I'm never going on social media ever again. And that's why I think that's an unhealthy solution, right? The cold turkey, be done with it.
It works for some people. I think it would.
And there's pluses and minuses to everything. So if you're gonna just avoid something, avoid the pluses of something because you're afraid of its minuses, then it controls you and you don't control it. So I think that's my point there. The other point with the dopamine side of things is they showed, and numbers have gone up in different charts, in different pollings, that suicide rates and depression rates among girls between 12 and 18, so like younger teens and regular teens, has increased quite a bit. And it was like in some cases it was like over 100% increase, like 170% increase in suicide rates of young underage girls because of this norm, that this facade of the norm that is being represented and being misprioritized to the youth. And it's our job as people who have been on this planet longer to help regulate some of this stuff and help be the adult and create better systems or algorithms to help facilitate the exposure of your young child or the youth in general in a positive way, if it's possible. And trust me, everything's easier in theory than in practice. But if we don't practice, then what are we here for? You got to at least try. And yeah.
They do a good job of saying, it is all an algorithm. It's all data points put together on a chart to kind of see what your next. They're basically predicting your next move before you try to make it.
And they're good at it.
They're very good at it. It's all
understanding human behavior,
simple
psychology, sociology, our neurobiology. It's all data that we know and that they're using to their advantage in social media companies. And quite frankly, it's not a complete evil, but the shortcomings that are associated with it need to be identified and need to be you need to counteract that. Same thing with, oh wow, we're posting the bench press article, the horizontal press article. Guess what? We don't avoid horizontal pressing because we know eventually it could lead to issues with our back. We just add in extra behavior. We do more pulling. We adjust for that. And that's all it is adjusting for that piece.
And the one thing I kind of was a little frustrated, after it ended. I'm sitting there kind of like, I wanted a little more out of it. After the guy says, "Hey, just delete your account," I'm sitting there kind of like, okay. They kind of they put this problem out here. They gave some solutions, but they didn't kind of go down the path of where you can go with it. Like they said, oh, they definitely can create an algorithm to shut this whole thing down. Not like completely shut it down, but shut down the algorithms and steer you in different directions. But we know they're not going to do that. The big tech companies aren't going to take responsibility for this. So what it comes down to me, is I was thinking there in this time where the credits are running and Netflix is like, oh, we recommend this for you. I'm like, it's going to go to the individual person or the adult in the household or leader to take accountability and ownership of their own behaviors and actions, because the big tech, no law, no nothing is going to stop them. They're going to create a better algorithm, even more, and keep you on longer. So we have to, as humans, recognize that this is a problem and we have to change. We have to limit our time. We have to limit our scrolls. We have to say, hey, I'm only going to go on for 5 minutes twice a day. I think that's the thing that I wanted them to say at the end, saying, instead of just delete it, you have to be aware of the stuff, and this is how you change your mindset and behavior. Because it's not going to be easy. The brain doesn't want to do it. Change. It's patterning. It's behavior. It's comfort. Oh, you wake up in the morning, you scroll through Instagram for 30 minutes. But then look back and say, okay, what could I have done in that 30 minutes? What could I have seen? Who could I have talked to? What could I have done? And I think that's where people really need to start looking inner at themselves and say, where am I falling short of what I want to be?
Yep. I think what I want to say left with this topic is I want to highlight again the subtle changes that can happen that you're not even aware of. That's why we love what we do, because we were kind of forced into athletics at a young age, from whether it was Menchie being good at sports or me having low self-confidence and needing some fun way to get out of my head. We ended up trusting the process so long that we have observed those subtle, minute changes that led to big results in the end. So that's why we have patience with our clients, and what we try to instill in our clients is consistency, because there's all these little tiny things and mechanisms and cells improving and muscle building and mitochondria, expanding, contracting, whatever, and autophagy going on, and so many another myriad of cascade of different metabolic processes. I just tried to use the three biggest words I knew at the time, right? But there's so much going on, and you can't just look for the big changes. Oh, I want to go up 50 pounds of my bench press. Well, guess what? That doesn't happen just in a day. Unless you want that road, then you're listening to the wrong podcast. But so when you're thinking of solutions, it doesn't have to be super complicated. It can be something as simple as, I'm going to write down 3 things that I want to get done after work today, and I'm going to make sure I get them done. Yep. So that way you still have your time to be productive and doesn't pull away from that part of your life. And then you can be free and flowing and whatever, right? I'm only going to spend 15 minutes on my phone, or after 8 p.m., I'm going to put my phone downstairs next to my bed with the alarm set, just ready to go. Yeah. Whatever it may be. And I think when it was talking about algorithms, it made me think that the message I want to give to people is build your own algorithms. Build your own algorithms for sleep. Build your own algorithms for your diet. Build your own algorithms for exercise, your relationships, your career, your self-interest, your downtime. And that's how you'll hack your life too. So like for me, I've kind of hacked my schedule really well. So it's cooking dinner for the girls and getting the dog out, and then winding down with an episode or a book, and then bed, and I'm up starting my day at 4:30 or 5. And I love the way that I've sort of built my algorithm for wind down time before my sleep so that I can get good quality sleep and check off that box.
Yeah, I mean that is probably the better solutions that I were gonna just give out, but like I shouldn't say better. It encapsulates all the solutions that I would give because
Yeah, mine's just general. Mine's so general.
it works though because I never really thought about processes as algorithms. Like I always think algorithms as like, okay, this equation to get to an outcome that I'm looking for, whether it's with numbers or programming or whatever, or computing stuff. But when you look at your own daily algorithm, monthly, yearly, like it all compiles to run our system. And the brain is the most powerful system. We're not going to outbeat this thing. This thing moves faster than we can even perceive life moving. Like it's just running constantly, even while we sleep. If we don't have certain algorithms, it could be chaos, and people are just going in multiple directions. Hence why people probably like that security of, hey, let me connect to an outside source of more chaos, but it feels like I'm pulling together and I'm comfort. So a lot of your algorithms that we're creating to change are going to get you out of that that comfortable zone. You're going to be uncomfortable. And that's okay for the first week or two, because then you get computed in your brain. Your brain's like, okay, this is the algorithm we are doing. Boom. Okay. Repeat. A little deviation, we're okay because we're ready for that. So that is to look at something like the Social Dilemma and say, I cannot let a computer algorithm run my human algorithm.
Yeah.
No way you can.
100%. 100%. And if your algorithm is more based on your intrinsic nature and who you are as a soul on this earth, you're going to outwin technology 99% of the time. But the thing is too, algorithms fail and they have to be adjusted and learned from and adapted and changed so that the overall goal is a general net positive trend, a successive approximation towards perfect, knowing that you will never reach perfect. There's no perfect human being. That's the beauty of the human life, is it's imperfect.
Well, that's the other thing. And I was talking to someone the other day about this because I said, we're looking for perfection, and they corrected me, and I was like, you're right. I don't think perfection is the best word for this. And we started talking about Dweck. So I, looking back in this, and I'm going to pull up, it's their teacher. They said, practice makes better, not perfect, right? So it's always improving because you can always make a process a little bit better, and you think you get it perfect, right? Man, I had a perfect program. And then there's a little tweak and we see a little bit more. It's like you give a little bit more each time. So I 100% agree that perfect should not be something we strive for. Better every time, if that makes sense. And I think we get stuck in this perfection.
And not, I was just going to say, and not beaten down when it's not.
Right. And think about it, who really wants to be run by a computer? Do I really want an artificial intelligence
iPhone users? Just kidding.
And you know me, like I am 100% for neuronal activity, my own willpower, my brain power. There's no way that a piece of technology is going to dictate what I do. So I kind of looked at that and said, okay, you're trying to beat me. I'm going to beat you back. Like, I'm going to win this game against that.
And that's how I feel when I go grocery shopping. Is I'm like, I am not buying this crap. I'll look on the back of something that will be like ghee, right? Ghee is supposed to be dairy-free butter. That's the whole pull to it. And then they'll have companies that'll make it with like soy lecithin. You're like, why would you took dairy out, but you put soy in? What are you thinking? And I refuse to be sold by fancy marketing and fancy labeling, and not backed by the good quality product and the good science that needs to be done.
This is maybe not the Social Dilemma is an example. There's multiple worlds around us, worlds around us, the space, the things that are pushing against us that are trying to change our algorithms. that are trying to beat you into saying, we want your behavior to be controlled by us, food industry, internet, social media, certain lifestyles, even sometimes certain cultures, right?
Yeah.
But that's how powerful people and persuasive. I mean, look at cults. Cults can do that, right? I mean, I don't want to let's not get deviate too far, but
we could go that'd be another topic. Yeah.
It's just this is how much vulnerable the human mind can be and how vulnerable we are as humans. And if people do not want to recognize that and take control of the space between their two ears and dictate their own path, I feel for them. Like that hurts when you see that. And they're just like, I'm just in this like robotic control of this pushing me forward. Like they just have this no concept. Very much, what was the movie? The Truman Show, right? He's living this reality controlled by a TV production, and then he starts. It's like, I want people to start questioning their reality. Where can they improve? Where can they? And that's what we promote here with the mindset. Every day we wake up and think fitness life. Think about this. Think fitness life. We get our fitness in, but think about life. Think about where we want to be in life, where we want to be in this moment, the next moment, and how can we optimize our lives to see what our vision wants to be and how do we get there?
Yeah, and it has so many different meanings, right? It's like think, like in the moment, like think. That's the first thing is think for yourself, right? And then incorporate fitness and then live your best life. Take care of how you think and have emotional intelligence to self-regulate. Then take care of your body and this incarnation you've been gifted, and then go ahead and live your best life.
Yeah.
True to yourself and true to your nature. And I think
that's why think is first, right? I don't.
Yeah.
When we came up with this, right? Or you more masterminded this kind of title. I mean, we played back and forth of what we wanted to call it. You kind of look back and think there's a reason that think dropped in first. Whether we don't know why, or maybe there's a process, but like as we go through seasons and we're thinking about this, I feel the mindset and the neurological and psychological process of all of what we do in this world is the most important thing of how we perceive, how we move, how we feel, and how we live. And that is the basis of how we kind of approach going about enjoying and having a good, successful life. Because that's what everyone looks for, success. So every day we think about things. We think about a lot of things. Make that thinking meaningful to you. That thinking, turn it into a plan, turn it into an action, and do it.
Well, that pretty much, I think, wraps us up. I don't really have much left to say except the food for thought, which I actually already stated, but I love it. It applies so well. Man, my grandmother would slap me for that. But food for thought was the quote I said earlier. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Peace out. See you next week.
Thanks for listening. We hope you gained something from this episode. Our mission is to help people live their best life, both physically and mentally. Check out thinkfitnesslife.com for additional resources and schedule a complimentary assessment with one of us. We're always here to help.